I am so glad you joined us. My name is Angela Craig, and I will be your host today. And I have the honor of having Cyndi Pollard with me today, and I'm going to introduce her to you in a few minutes. But first, I just want to tell you that today's topic is for everyone. We are going to be talking about aging with grace, and we have two very important questions that many people are asking that we're going to address today. But first of all, if you're new to our Hangouts, I want to tell you that every month we come to you with relevant topics. Sometimes they're hot topics, so you want to look up our archives and check that out. We have inspirational guests like Cyndi, and we also want you to join the conversation. So we have empowering conversation. The way you do that on our live show is to go ahead and go to your Twitter account, and you can hashtag a question to Cyndi or to me. You can hashtag a comment or an answer. If you have an experience with aging when we're talking, just use the hashtag in front of WM Hangout. And then that'll come up on my screen, and which you'll see me looking at often. And I'll be able to then say, Cyndi, we have a listener who has a question for you. So we want you to join the conversation and be a part of this today. We're so glad that you joined us. And so let's get started. Cyndi, I am so glad that you are with us today. Before we started, I told Cyndi she looks like she's on the set of a movie, and that's pretty fabulous. And she's actually in her office. Cyndi is a bivocational minister, and so she's doing full-time ministry and full-time job as the executive director at Canterbury Park, which is a retirement community. And so I wanted her to kind of share day in the life of Cyndi, of what that looks like to be playing those roles. I mean, not only that, she's a mom and a wife and a friend, and she's also on our leadership team at the network. And so many, many things she's doing. She blogs. So why don't you go ahead and tell them what that looks like, living your life.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela, and thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here and to share what I know about the people aging and how they're doing that. But a day in my life, if it's a work day, I get up and I come to work and I spend time with about 85 really wonderful, wonderful residents, ages from 50 to 98 years old. And I hear about them and learn about their stories and kind of help them work through things, and then I do the administration side also. My passion, though, is women and women's ministry. I love women. I love coming alongside of them and helping them figure out what to do with the rest of their lives. What does God call them to? What do they want to do? What are their passions? What are the fun things that they like to do? And so I love doing that, whether it's in a corporate setting with conferences or whether it's one-on-one. I have my husband and I have been married for 26 years, and he is a builder, and I have a daughter who is 21 that is in the Navy. She is stationed in Hawaii, poor girl. And so I have a busy life, very full life, but my problem is that I want to do everything, so I say yes a lot because it's all fun for me.
It is fun. Well, and I love knowing you. It's inspiring, and it's great to be able to do this together today. So let's get started. We met before, and we came up with two questions that you and I hear quite often about aging.
Yes.
And so first of all, we want to talk about that, kind of an overview of our day today. If you are a person who is finding yourself in transition, maybe you're retiring, even if you're, let's say, I hear this from missionaries who are coming, they're not going to be missionaries in the field, or they're maybe changing to a different position, maybe moving back to the States. That's a huge transition. Finding purpose in those transitions. Finding purpose when you retire. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then the second thing is caring for those you love who are aging. There are so many taboos around aging, and especially I will say, in the United States. Mm-hmm. Other countries really honor age, and you're not categorized into a rocking chair. As one of my readers of my blog, I wrote a blog on aging, and he said when he's a missionary in Zimbabwe, he is not categorized by age, but when he comes back, his generation is referred to many times, and people just expect him to sit in a rocking chair and do nothing. And that's unfortunate. So we want to talk about those taboos that we have around aging and really change our perspective about it. So let's get started because Cyndi has some incredible information and resources to share with you today. First question. So I get this a lot. I'm retired. What is my purpose now? So especially people that have had a really fulfilling ministry or been a pastor's wife or been on the mission field or had an entrepreneurial business don't know how to retire well. So we struggle with finding meaning and purpose. Even if you have a relationship with Christ and you have had a real strong devotional life, this is still a very human thing to face, this moment when you have to face change. So what are some things that we can tell people that are facing this transition?
Well, I think first I would like for you to get a feel of how they feel. And so if you're listening in, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to imagine that you've just retired from your job and you're so excited about this because you're tired and now you have all of this time. You can work on your home, you can work in your garden, you can go on vacation. And then you find out that when you go home, you really can't do those things anymore because you don't have the energy to do it. But you try and try and try, and finally you realize that you need a little bit of help. And so imagine for a moment that your favorite place in your home. So no matter what age you are, my favorite place in my home is right at the kitchen and the living room area. And imagine that and all of your stuff around you. Imagine the color of your carpet or your hardwood floors. Imagine your lighting fixtures, your lamps. Imagine the chairs that you sit on, the dishes that you use, and the space that you have. Imagine how you put things in your refrigerator and how you've organized your cabinets. And just imagine, it may be at your bedroom or your office, but just for a moment think of all of the stuff that's around you. And then I come and say, okay, we can't wait till you move here, but you're moving to a way smaller place, and so you have to get rid of a lot of things. And so now you're no longer going to your job every day. And now you're having to choose in your home what you're going to take with you. And that part comes pretty easy once you know the size. But what is very difficult is, what am I going to leave? And so imagine yourself in this transitional place, and you no longer have your home to entertain in. You no longer have the same people that you see every day around you. And now you're at, what am I going to do now? So you can open your eyes. And so what happens then is for a moment that goes into weeks, it goes into months, it sometimes goes into years, people that are aging feel useless. Because they don't want to bring people to a retirement home because now they've said, I need help and I'm retired. They don't necessarily, even if they're still in their homes, have the energy to make the big dinners or to clean their house and invite guests in. And they go to church maybe one time a week now instead of every time the doors are open. And when they go to church, nobody's running to them anymore and asking them to do anything. Or if they go visit their friends at their job, nobody's running to them. And so there's this useless, hopeless feeling of, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? One of the scriptures that I love says, and your latter days will be better than your younger days. But when people first go into retirement, after everything settles in and they've traveled and there's no longer the excitement of it, that question comes up, what am I going to do? And here's what I would say to that. There is so much that you can do. There is so much that retired people, men and women, we need the retired people in our lives. If you know anyone that's retired, you let them know we need those people. Oh my gracious, I have been here for 2 years and I have learned so much about marriage and children and work ethic and longevity and love and kindness and grace. These women that I see daily, they are so full of grace and so full of class. We kind of live in a world where we're a little more brash sometimes a little more casual, I guess is probably a nicer way. And it's so wonderful to see these people and how they act. Let them know that you need them. Let them know you're watching them and learning. Ask them questions. There is nothing better than not a resident, but an aging person likes to tell their stories. They like to give advice. Sit with them. Have coffee, take coffee and tea to them, not necessarily asking them to get out unless they're very, very active. Ask them to meet you for coffee or meet you for lunch, and ask them to tell their story. And as you hear their story and what they've done in their past, our mind should be going, okay, these are some things that they can do. So help them. Come alongside of them. They have so much to offer. And really, sometimes we think somebody on a walker or a cane doesn't have enough energy to do some of the things that you might like them to do. Let me tell you, they have tons of energy. They're just slower. So slow down. I come around the corner sometimes, and sometimes they're like, because it's like I'm going to run into them. Slow down with them. Because if you're rushing, they're going to feel like they need to go faster. Slow down. Walk with them. Walk beside them. And just let them know how much you need them. But put yourself in their place and understand the loss that they felt in this transition.
That's good. Okay, so I was a good student. I closed my eyes, but you had me on giving up my house.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, many of us think retire. You work, and then you retire, and it's kind of the beginning of fun. Giving up my house does not sound like fun. And I know for my mother-in-law, we've moved her, I think 6 times now. But it's always been getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yes.
And it's been so incredibly emotional and hard on both sides, to find a balance of what you take with you, what you leave, and then also honoring that her life is changing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that many of us are in denial that this happens, like that at some point you do get to a point where, like, I can't take care of all this. I don't have the energy to host parties. I love hosting parties. I can't even imagine a time in my life when I wouldn't have the capability to do that, although it will happen, right? And I think this is what's great about having this awareness, that will happen, but then God will do something new in my life.
Yes.
If I'm open to it, and other people have an awareness of how much that I would have to offer at 75 or 80 or 85 or 90. If we could change society to see that, then my mentor skills could come forward. Yes. So maybe my hosting great parties wouldn't, but I could attend a party, and maybe someone would want to hear my years of knowledge that I had of raising children and having a strong marriage and having ministry and having business, and so I think that's excellent perspective, and I appreciate it. You mentioned when we were talking that you do a Bible study with the people at your senior home, and I think that's important. And I know you said that you would share resources with anybody who wanted to email you. Do you want to share your email now, and then that way if people need to jump off the call, they can?
Sure. So my email is Cyndi, CYNDI, at CyndiPollard.com. And I am involved in a company, Cal Senior Communities, and we have independent living, we have assisted living, and we have memory care. I can get you resources on any of those. So if you have family or know people that are at the place of dementia or Alzheimer's, or you just need help with transitional things, or they just need assisted living, I won't sell our building, but I can get you resources because it will help you to be prepared to see those that you love age in place. It is hard to watch the people that you love age in place. And so being prepared for that and understanding what's ahead so that you can honor them, so that you can go, this is just part of the process, so that, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, be all things to all people. That's definitely my interpretation. But when you're walking with aging, not walking literally, but when you're with people who are aging in place, be like them, talk to them, help them out. And so we have tons of resources.
That's great. And your blog, did you give them your blogs? Cyndi
My,
also writes an amazing blog. So why don't you give that to them too?
it is Cyndi Pollard at blogspot.com.
That's great. And we'll try to remember to give that to you at the end. This will be recorded for those that are watching, so you can go back and rewind it if you need that information. And we'll post it on our Facebook page for the Women's Department as well, so you can go back and get it there. So you'll have lots of opportunity. So you mentioned Alzheimer's and dementia and senior care. So that's actually the next question that I had, those taboo subjects of aging and getting the right care when we're caring, when our loved ones become the ones that we need to care for when they're aging. And you know, I have known of people in their 40s that had dementia, and then they were diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so this is something that's happening to many different levels of people, age groups. It's not just happening to people over 80. So I think we need to take the taboo off of it and talk about it and call it what it is, because that's when you can actually treat it and manage it to the best of its ability, and so someone actually has quality of life. And that's really what's important. And so let's talk about when we become the caregiver of someone who's aging, and maybe the parent role switches. Yes. And that can be really confusing, and you go through a grief process of loss. And so what are some advice that you could give, like for instance me, whose mother-in-law has dementia? What advice would you give me?
So I would say, Angela, the first thing that you would need to do, or anyone would need to do, is get an accurate diagnosis. And for as much as a family can, have everybody there for the diagnosis, and if everybody cannot be there to hear from the doctor, have it written out by the doctor. And that one thing alone takes the shame away. It takes the guilt away. It does not take the sadness away. My father-in-law died of Alzheimer's, and my dad has been diagnosed with dementia. It does not take the sadness away to watch that happen. But I would say having a proper diagnosis would be the first thing. The second thing is it's really not their fault. And when you're caring for someone who has dementia or Alzheimer's, especially as it gets as it becomes more and more prevalent in their lives, it is really hard. It is really hard because this is, especially if it's your parent or your auntie or uncle or an adult that has been in your life, you switch roles. And so now as that person, as they diminish with the dementia or Alzheimer's, they become very childlike and they become very forgetful, and it is very frustrating. It does not matter how nice you are or how amazing your relationship is. Let me help you with the guilt and the shame. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel sad. You're going to cry out to the Lord, hopefully. You're going to have misunderstanding. Understand that all of those things are a normal part if you're a family member caretaker. There are wonderful places that have caretakers that are trained that are not necessarily, they're not relatives, so they don't have that emotional tie. But as a family member caring for a loved one, it is very, very difficult. But I think if you go into it expecting that you're going to feel those emotions, there is less guilt and shame. The other thing, one of the other reasons it's very taboo is no one likes to say dementia and no one likes to say Alzheimer's because it's a terrible disease. But one of the things that happens is the embarrassment part. And so when your loved one first has Alzheimer's or dementia, you're still going out in public, you're still going to church, you're still going to dinner, and you're still trying to maintain the life that you had. But as that diminishes, they do odd things in public. They do odd things that people don't understand and your friends don't understand in church. When you go out in crowds, they can't necessarily go to the restroom by themselves anymore because they might get lost coming back. And so what family caretakers do is they isolate. Mm-hmm. Oh, let me tell you, don't isolate. There are workshops that you can go to. There are care units that you can go to where you're with other people. There is no shame in those diseases. And so don't be alone. Don't isolate. Don't find places. If you keep your girlfriends, keep your boyfriends, I'm talking to boys and girls, keep those relationships. They're so important. And put aside the embarrassment. And it's okay to say, my loved one has dementia, my loved one has Alzheimer's. That takes the embarrassment a little bit out of it. There's so much in the media now where people have a better understanding. But don't isolate and talk about it. You know what? Call somebody you trust and say, I'm feeling so angry and frustrated right now. And you also, the other part that happens is sometimes as a caretaker of a loved one, you're kind of mean to them, because you're so frustrated, and so you say things out of your own frustrations, and the enemy comes like lightning and brings guilt to you. You're not alone. Most everyone that I know that is a family caretaker experienced that, and just like you would anyone else, you apologize to that person. And then the other thing that's really hard for me to even say, it doesn't get better. It gets worse before it gets better. And so that's the importance of not isolating. That's the importance of not going through it alone. And so get the resources, understand what the disease is, and be prepared for it as much as you can.
Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, so just to recap from my own purposes and for people that are listening, I think getting the right diagnosis is super important.
Yes.
That was very, very hard for our family with my mother-in-law because, number one, it didn't seem like we could get the right diagnosis. And the other thing is just our wanting to deny that it was true.
Yes. Yep.
I think that's a huge thing. So also, there are things that mimic depression and mimic Alzheimer's. Like you said, the D and the A word. Like people don't want to say those. And so you're looking for something else. So you'll search for everything else. And so it could be, like you said, a urinary tract infection. And there are different, like delirium dementia that you can get just from like being sick and being in the emergency room. So you do need to get the right medical attention and have it in writing what is the actual diagnosis. That's super, super important. And because until you have that, you can't treat it and you can't move forward. And you can't, like we went through, once we had a diagnosis, then they prescribed drugs. Well, the first drugs we tried made it worse. So then we just stopped everything and didn't do anything because it was scary. It was very scary because we didn't want to make her worse, right? So then, but then we found the right combination. So I think just being really connected to your medical staff and having open discussion with family members is so important. So I'm glad that you brought that up. What was the other thing? Acceptance of the disease and not being embarrassed about it. It's not, like you said, it's not their fault. They might be acting in a passive-aggressive way and not even know they're doing it. And so, like I always say to people, if your mom or dad or cousin, whoever you're caring for, had heart disease, would you feel the way, would you stop taking them out, or would you stop seeing them because you couldn't handle it? No, it's the same. It's a disease that's deteriorating their brain. And so it's not their fault. They didn't choose this. They're not trying to act out. And so I think that acceptance and just being a loving presence, and just because maybe they don't seem to be responding to you in a loving way doesn't mean that we can't try to, as much as we can, try to be loving back to them.
The other thing, Angela, I would say is allow yourself to grieve. There is such a huge grieving process in watching this, and allow yourself to do that. Allow the sadness. And if you can share it with other family members, that's wonderful. Sometimes when you have a bunch of family members, then everybody grieves differently. When I heard my dad's diagnosis, I literally cried all night long just the thought, we have so many memories in our family, so many wonderful memories. And so I was able to go back to my dad because he was so sad. He knew he was losing his memory. And I was able to say, Dad, we will keep all of your memories. They will never all be lost. So tell your loved ones, especially if they're at that place where they know that they're losing their memories, that you will keep their memories for them. It was a wonderful thing to tell my dad. But I still have to grieve. I still am not fully grieved through it. But you have to let yourself be sad and angry. There's 7 different things you do, as you go through grieving. Allow yourself, find the time and the place to do that. You'll stay healthier that way.
Yeah, that's great advice. You also talked about just different options for caring for people. Mm-hmm. Do you want to discuss those briefly?
No, not at all. There are numerous things that you can do when someone's aging in place. That's why the diagnosis is so very, very important. If you have loved ones that are in the aging process and they're still very independent, and they still travel, and even if they can't drive anymore, but they still can take care of themselves, then there are many wonderful, all over the United States and out of the United States, there are wonderful places that someone who is just too tired and weak to take care of a big home or take care of their yards can go to an independent community. Make sure that you visit that with them. Make sure that that's their idea. Make sure that they don't feel forced into it, or you will lose. The next thing would be when you do have to get more involved is when they need assistance and you no longer can assist them. You can have home health care come in. You can have, there's all kinds of organizations that are out there that will come into your home and help. And even if you're the caretaker, you need help. I promise you, you need help. And if they get to a point where that no longer is working, there are many wonderful, wonderful assisted living communities, and that are not like nursing homes anymore. They're not like convalescent homes. They allow people to still keep their dignity and their respect. So make sure you really vet through those different places. But that would be an assisted living place. And then if your parents or your loved ones have Alzheimer's or dementia, there are a place called memory care. They call it memory care because that's easier to say. And again, make sure that's a place where they're allowing you as a family member and your loved ones to maintain as much dignity and respect as they can in the place that they're in. And so there are places for your loved ones. Also, there are, and I don't like this expression, but I use it because this is what they use in this field, there is daycare, adult daycare. And so if you feel yourself isolating, find a place in town where your loved one with dementia or Alzheimer's can go for the day. They'll play games, they have music, they'll feed them, they'll watch out after them so they don't get lost, and kind of integrate them into that. And that way you can still go out and do things you need to do for yourself that helps with anger, frustration, and isolation.
That's really good. I know my mother-in-law is in an absolutely wonderful memory care facility, but she has her own apartment. It's decorated with all her favorite things. Yes. But then she enjoys so much. She's very social and loves the communal table that they have for meals together, and the staff is incredible. She just loves the way that she is treated by the staff. And she's busy. She can go to yoga, she can go to music, she can play games. I mean, there is a lot of things. They have a nice walking path in the back, and so she was able to have her dog there until he passed away this last year, which was fabulous. I mean, so it really is. I mean, there are things that you can do, and I know they have sliding scales too, depending on your income, which is great to know about. So there are many, many options, and I know that you can help resource people with that. And we can post that again. I'll post that on our website for you and our Facebook page for anyone who's in need of those resources, because it can be a struggle when you're in the depths of caregiving to have the time to find those resources. But we just want to make it easier for you. So don't hesitate to email me directly or email Cyndi. You want to give them your email address one more time?
Yes, Cyndi at CyndiPollard.com. One thing you just hit on, Angela, that was really important is the animal factor. if your loved one has animals, make sure that you find a place where they can take their animals. That is really, really, that's a great point.
Yeah, it is. And it wasn't easy to find a place that would take animals, but we did. And it was really great for her because that's a therapy animal, really.
Yes.
And it just really was awesome. Okay, one question from our audience today. This is a very practical question that many people will have, and it applies to many things. So my dad he's been diagnosed with dementia, but he's still driving. How do I take the keys away from him?
Great question. You have the doctor do it. Or you have
the doctor do it.
or you call the Department of Motor Vehicles and let them know and let them do it. Don't do it yourself.
That is awesome advice. I love that. So for our listener who had that question, you just helped a lot of people. I didn't even know the answer to that question.
It's awful. It's an awful thing to do. And with that, if they don't remember anything else, they remember that you're the one that took away their keys.
Yeah. We don't want that.
Mm-mm.
No. Mm-mm. Nope. You don't want to be the bad guy. Don't do it. Let somebody else do it.
Let somebody, as much as you can, let someone else do it. The other thing we talk about is music is huge. If you know the type of music that your loved one listened to when they were younger, play that music all the time.
That's good. That's true, too, because my mother-in-law loves music, and she loves sports. She really loves sports. It's very cool. So, okay, well, thank you so much for being our guest. Do you have any closing comments or words of advice?
Yes, love yourself through this and allow the Lord to minister to you and love you because you are going to need it when you go through this process.
That's great advice. It's true. You do. And you need to don't be isolated. Be in a community with others that can love on you because you will need it. And so we support you, and we're here for you, and we're just glad you joined us today. So this Hangout, just like the rest of our Hangouts, you can find on wmhangout.com, and we have many in our archives of all different topics that would be relevant to you. So take a look, and you can share those with your friend. This will be recorded to YouTube, and it will be up shortly after we're done here. We have some things coming up in our network you want to know about. So just go to our website, northwestwomen.com, and check that out, or join us on Facebook, and we will share all the great news with you there. So thank you, Cyndi, so much for being our guest today with such valuable information, and thank you for helping break the taboos. Number one, I'm going to have purpose as I age. Every day I'm aging. The death rate is 100%, right? So this is just the way it is. But I think the first part is just to break my stereotype that it's not going to be me, right? That it has to downsize. It's not going to be me that's going to get tired, because it will happen. My body is going to slow down. But that doesn't mean that I can't contribute. That God has a purpose for me and for you until your very last breath. So let's live that. Live a life on purpose. Live a life of meaning. And then just know that we are here to support you if you are caregiving for family members or friends. And so email Cyndi or I, or find us on Facebook, and we'll give you some resources for that. So have a great day, everyone. And thank you again, Cyndi, for joining us. Take care.